Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's podcast. Today, we're going to have a very interesting conversation, a conversation all about women in print. And what we've done today is we've brought across two continents. So we have with us Sarah Fenna, who is the co-founder of Women in Signs and Graphics, and also the sales director of Soyang Hardware. And we have Lisbeth Lyons Black joining us from the States, who is also the director of Women in Print Alliance. Welcome to you both, and really look forward to this conversation. It's so important.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Debbie.
Great. Lisbeth, I think it would be great to start with yourself. Could you give us a really brief intro into the Women in Print Alliance, why it was founded, and what its core mission is?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So Women in Print Alliance has actually been around in a different form for several years. It started as a grassroots initiative with a very passionate small group of women who felt that there was an opportunity and a need for women to help empower one another in an industry that has traditionally had more men in leadership and the employment ranks than women. And through that time, the organization sponsored an annual breakfast or an annual lunch. But what we heard from women was that there was a real desire for year-round connection and community, and that an annual event was great, but wasn't cutting it. And so we decided to take it to a more formalized level, and Printing United Alliance took Women in Print Alliance kind of under its wing as a community, kind of a separate but distinct organization within an organization. They hired me as its first ever formal director, which was exciting, and really put some infrastructure behind the organization to give it a more formal and professional look. We started a website, we started a newsletter, and just 4 months ago, we branched out to start an actual membership option. So individuals, corporations, and even students can apply to be a member of Women in Print Alliance, and that will allow them more elevated benefits to the types of programming and networking opportunities that we provide and are looking forward to providing in the coming years.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Sarah, when did Women in Signs and Graphics begin, and why?
It began actually probably not that long after yours, Lisbeth, by the sounds of it. Mm-hmm. It was in the beginning of COVID. It's something that we'd spoken about and been wanting to do, and obviously time allowed. So Isabella and myself co-founded Women in Signs and Graphics because we felt that there was a need for a platform for women to come together, share experiences, ideas, mentor, guide each other, etc. Now, ours is currently still an informal group, but we do have close to 300 members now, and we have been talking and looking to take it to another level. I'm aware that there are a few different, especially in the UK, a few different groups that have come about, and I've even touched on the fact that I think it would be really good for us all to come together, because the more of us there are, the better it will be. Definitely.
Global.
Absolutely.
Which is why we're all in this conversation today, although two of us, I do confess, are in the UK. But it's a global issue. I think, with the advancement of technologies, it's now much easier, I think, for women to enter into the print space, whether it's kind of in a technical role or, literally in the print shop too. Would you both agree with that?
Yes.
I would agree. It's interesting you say that, Debbie. I just listened to a podcast of a woman that we're featuring in the Women in Print Alliance newsletter that goes out today, actually, Carol Hargrave, and she talked about her beginnings in the printing industry and the fact that she wanted to go work in the print press operations for a major newspaper in the U.S., the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Her father had worked at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Her uncle had worked there. they would not allow her to apply for a job there because there were only single sex. There was only one, I guess, male locker room for women to shower and change. And so there was no separate facility for women, and they didn't feel it was a safe environment for her to go in and have to be like showering with men after her shift. And so, to your point, it's not only the technology that has kind of opened the access. I think maybe some of the ways we're promoting the industry as more of an art, and having more of an artsy and creative flair that attracts some women. But even these societal changes where now major companies wouldn't think about having a female employee they would either have, unisex facilities, or they would have separate gender facilities that were, all like very safe and above board. And so I thought that was interesting because that was not so long ago that women faced those kinds of barriers that were not unique to print, but just unique to workplaces, particularly in the US.
It's interesting because from my perspective, as a textile designer in a studio many years ago, predominantly the studio would have been all female. You'd have had very, very, very few male people in the creative sector. And it's interesting to see how that has unlocked, but still we don't see many females actually on the print shop floor, do we? And I think from a signage and graphics perspective, Sarah, could like you to share your perspective on this. From a signage and graphics perspective, are there more men in graphics? From a creative perspective, obviously there are more predominantly men in the production environment, but not in the creative sector. What do you think?
I would say it's probably a mixture now in the creative sector, for sure. And I am seeing, happy to say that I am seeing more women on the production side. I love nothing more than going into a business and finding that they have a female production manager. I mean, it's crazy that, I should still get so excited about that. But and more more companies that I'm speaking to, the percentage of women in the business is definitely increasing. I'm finding some up to sort of 25%. So I think the messages are getting through, but it's such a vast industry, isn't it? So there's so many different sectors. I always say it's not just about sales and marketing, but obviously there's ink manufacturing. There's all sorts of things that people just probably wouldn't think about when they're at university, thinking, oh, I could go into the printing industry with this, because I think everyone takes it for granted.
They do. Absolutely right. I was at New Designers recently, and you watch the textile designers coming through. They consider a career in design, but they don't actually consider a career within the print industry, because it has kind of a bad, not a bad reputation in that way, but it's also seen as a little bit grubby somehow. And there's absolutely nothing grubby about the print industry at all. Using today's technologies. I mean, digital print rooms
maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. A digital print room looks like a doctor's surgery. We're not talking like buckets and steam anymore. We've got pristine, air-conditioned environments that are super, super clean and super high-tech and incredibly exciting.
Absolutely.
What challenges do you think are faced by women in the US, particularly then, trying to get into print?
Well, I'm not sure I know what the challenges are trying to get into print. I think I would almost flip that script and say, what are the challenges for the printing industry to attract more women? Just like we're talking about.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, and part of it is something that we are kind of long-term plan as Women in Print Alliance. We are looking to do some more hard research, because there's a lot of anecdotal research about the state of women in the print industry, and we really don't have strong economic or kind of longitudinal studies. We know, for example, anecdotally, in some of the premier print 2 and 4 year college programs in the US, that we hear a lot of women are in those programs. We hear it's predominantly women in a lot of those programs, but then we don't really track and know what happens to them when they graduate. Do they go into print? Do they go into an advertising agency? And as Sarah said, our industry is so incredibly diverse that tracking a, a path in, your career path in print isn't like being an accountant, right?
Yeah.
You can go so many different ways with it. So I think part of the challenges for the printing industry, how do you attract younger women, next gen workers into the industry? And you touched on this, Debbie, when you talked about the creative aspect. That's something I've heard a lot, that we can focus on promoting print as a creative industry, not just heavy manufacturing, that it's a blend of the two. There is also a huge push in the US for girls and women in STEM, science, technology, and math, education, engineering. And I think the more that we see those programs succeed, and we as an industry pitch ourselves to women who are coming out of STEM programs, we have an opportunity for the chemists that are working on the ink, for the engineers and the software people that are working on those products. And then finally, I think part of the real challenge too is, once a woman is hired, how do you as an employer, and how do we as an industry ensure that that woman feels supported and has mentorship available from someone who looks like her when it comes to gender, right? So, I mean, we need to, that's something that Women in Print Alliance is very passionate about, showing the next generation, whether they've just been hired or whether they're considering print as a career, that there is a place for you in this industry. And I think it's up to the companies too, to be honest. There are a lot of studies that have shown, particularly Gen Z workers will choose, they're not choosing jobs based on salary alone. If they're interviewing at 2 or 3 companies, they will take the lower paying job if they believe that company believes in their values and they have shared values with that company. And so it's a little bit of a different, generation coming up too. And so I think as an industry and employers, we have to look at, pitching the printing industry, as well as understanding the needs and motivations of the next gen workforce.
It's interesting that you mentioned values as well, isn't it? Because Sarah, perhaps we comment on this as well, that the next generation is so, sustainability is absolutely front of mind for them. And I talk to them, and they don't choose their employers in the same way that perhaps I would have done all of those years ago. They very much want to align with the principles of that company. And from a sustainability perspective, the print industry, on the verge of digitization, is becoming so environmentally friendly. It's a great opportunity, as you said, for those scientists and chemists and all of those software engineers, all of those intellectuals, to actually come into this space and make a huge difference. One of the things that I'm really passionate about, and with as much time as we have, try to get, I think the print industry is remiss in engaging with education. As you said, if we want to get to the next generation, we have to talk to the next generation. We have to talk to them whilst they're training and share our knowledge into the industry. Do you have any plans to advance that, Sarah? Do you have any? Do you agree with those comments?
Yeah, no, I do. We have to get to the grassroots.
Yeah.
It's a big challenge to do that, because 1 or 2 people alone are, we can't do it on our own. But we, as Women in Science and Graphics, have started collaborating with some educational establishments who are looking to the next generation to go and explain to them about all the different options that there are available to them and the possibilities of the printing industry. I'm very much involved with the printing charity here in the UK and the Rising Star Awards.
Yes, very important.
Really important and really encouraging. Really encouraging them. I love working with them, and I've been involved in the judging. And it's great to see them wanting to progress their career, but also seeing and getting the knowledge and experience from people like myself, so they can see where the industry can take them.
Yeah.
So and it's just it's a big challenge in that respect, and I think there's a few different groups trying to do things, and I really do think we should just all come together and
I agree.
hit it from one angle.
I totally agree with you. Lisbeth, what's going on in the US as regards kind of engaging with education?
Well, we have a major print show coming up. You may be familiar with Printing United Alliance. It's taking place actually just 2 weeks from this recording in Las Vegas. And there is always a student day, which I think is exciting for, students that are in surrounding areas. We also have, I know this universities like Rochester Institute of Technology will bring a delegation of students to the trade show to show them firsthand. And if you've walked a trade show floor I've never been to Drupa. That's on my bucket list. But if you've ever been to
shoes.
if you've ever been to a major trade show like Drupa or in the US Printing United Expo, there's no way you can't get excited by walking around and seeing and just the buzz and the equipment and the excitement. So I think, bringing students to that environment is something that is always really powerful.
Great idea.
What I'm seeing, and what I think, to Sarah's point about kind of diffusing the efforts across a broader number of people or a broader number of companies, what I'm really looking to do, Women in Print Alliance, is find those companies that have partnered with we call them in the US junior colleges or community colleges that have partnered with university and college programs or even high school programs. There used to be a lot of what we call vocational education in the US. Now it's called career, it's CTE. I'm getting a career and technical education is kind of the buzz term in the US now. So these CTE programs in high schools and then as print programs in universities, there are private companies that are putting some funding and resources and manpower into these programs. And what I would love to do is really be a forum to highlight those companies that are doing that and how it's working and how they do that, recognizing that not every company may have the resources to emulate it to a T, but that every company might take away one or two things that they can do, whether it's even just bringing in high school students for a facility tour or reaching out to the local community college and asking when their job fair is and volunteering to have a booth. So I think those are the ways. Sarah mentioned the grassroots. I think, I've worked in government affairs for 25 years. We can pass legislation. We do support legislation to increase funding for CTE programs or access to accreditations and certificates. However, at the end of the day, private industry has to, in the US anyway, private industry really needs to step in and be a partner there. And I think that private industry tends to, when they lead the way and they're innovative, they outpace government in these efforts. And so trying to create more awareness and, see these efforts duplicated and multiplied across our country would be amazing.
Yeah. Sarah, would you like to see some resources thrown in from the industry to underpin this?
Yes. Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. As I say, the more support and help that we can all give, the better, the better the outcome. And we do get given platforms to talk at various shows and things, which is great.
Yeah, you spoke at the print show, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Sign and Digital.
Yeah.
So people are behind us. We probably just need to go to the next level now.
Yeah. I mean, I myself, was the FESPA Textile Ambassador, so I've done and continue to do various things in partnership.
Yeah,
in partnering
you do,
with all sorts of things. We've got green grads going on, we've got all sorts of things going on in the background, and just engaging with those graduates and those students and signposting, really. But it almost needs something a little bit more formal, I think, doesn't it? And more engaged, more collaborative, and more events, really, to make more noise, really. Perhaps collectively we can get together. There must be lots of other people like us out there. We'll get together and collaborate and put some power behind this, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just sorry that I won't make it to Printing United this time, Lisbeth, because I'd have loved to have sat and had a coffee with you and had a good old chat. But I'm sure there'll be other times.
Well, invite
Sure
me to the next UK-based event, and I'll try to find my way there. I love to travel, so you won't find me turning down an invitation to hop across the pond.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent.
Okay. Well, let's continue this conversation, shall we, ladies? Let's continue to collaborate. Let's bring
that'd be great.
Bring the continents together. Lisbeth, I know you're short of time today. I think it's
I'm really sorry about last week.
Don't worry.
We're struggling. I'm sinking. It's
so important that we collaborate, we bring all of these things together, we open up these channels for discussion. And I think, Lisbeth, as you said, a community that can network and support and have a knowledge archive, a knowledge database. That works.
Sharing ideas.
As a huge community, bringing the best of the print industry and the power of the print industry, really, to, as you say, to democratize that workforce. So important. There are so many amazing opportunities out there.
We're excited at Women in Print Alliance. So we feel like, when I think Sarah kind of alluded to this too, we're just scratching the surface.
Yes.
There's so much runway for us to take these kinds of programs, both grassroots programs and formal initiatives. And there's a lot of passion out there. I'm just every day in awe of what women are doing in our industry, and can't wait to help share those stories to make it just a culture, of industry culture, really, where women can thrive and shine.
That's great.
Definitely.
That's great. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. We will continue this conversation perhaps in another month or so's time, and in the background hatch greater plans, I think.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's great. Lovely to meet you.
Thanks for hosting us, Debbie.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your time today.